give all of this today. We got to give all of this out so we can stop this whole nonsense of people not knowing who they are, not following the law, not following statute commandments, not knowing that they're not black, that they're not African American, and stop questioning people who are telling you that you're not black, that you're not African American, that you are an Israelite. So we got to give you all this information here today. Now, when you go to Luke, the 21st chapter, I'm just giving you these precepts to write down in your own, you can look at it in your own time. When you go to Luke, the 21st chapter, verse 20 through 24, you will see that Christ is telling them there that when you see Jerusalem surpassed by armies, time for you to get out of there. Remember, back in 2 Kings 17, you seen what Assyria did to Israel. But with our people in Judea, we were sacked by the Romans. Now, Jay, put that that first link in there for them. This is a book of Josephus. It's a testament. It's called the War of the Jews from the book of Josephus. What this does is shows you as a history. Yeah, it gives you the historical evidence of what the Romans did to our people in 70 AD. This is why after the end of this Bible, at the end of Revelations, this is why you don't have any more readings coming from Israelites, because at that point after that we were done and we were scattered. We're going to show you in a minute here where they scattered to. This is how after this, when it got to around 325, this is how they had the Council of Nicaea when the Romans assumed authority over our faith in our book. Because of what happened in Jerusalem in 70 AD. We were done. We're going to give you the understanding here. But what happened was, on the day of Pentecost, right before Christ ascended back into heaven, if you look at Acts, the first chapter, verse 6 and 7, the disciples asked Christ and said, will now Most High restore the kingdom? It's because they knew the Bible. They knew the writings. And they thought, now because Christ has paid for the sins of Israel, that they were going to restart as a nation. But Christ told them, said, no, not now. It's not time. There's some things that we got to go through. It's not for you to know the time. So the disciples thought it was going to start then. They were looking for the kingdom to shift right back in then. But it wasn't time, because according to Luke, the 21st chapter, there had to be the fullness of the Gentiles. This is what you see today. This is why the Gentiles are on top now and we're on the bottom. Remember, I showed you back in Romans 11 chapter, verse 11 and 12, that they rose up to provoke jealousy among us. The whole reason all this stuff happened is because of our sins, our ancestors' sins. Nobody took us down. The white man came in and destroyed us. No. We failed. We are not an oppressed people. We are a fallen people. You need to understand that. Because as long as you believe that you're oppressed, you will look at the oppressor as higher than you. You understand that you're fallen, then all you got to do is just get up. You understand? This is why they promote this racism. That's why they put it on TV, so that you see black people get killed on the TV, shot in the streets, always getting all. This is why they do this. So you can think that you're oppressed. Because they don't want you to know that you're just fallen. Because a fallen man will just get up. Oppressed man will lay there because he thinks they're holding them down. The only person that's holding us down is our ignorance of who we are. And that's what we're here today, to solve that ignorance. Now, go to Revelation 12. We're going to show you what happened here. Remember, I told you that Christ told them to escape into the mountains. We're going to show you here, because I know many of you saying here, you ain't proved to us that we Israelites. About to do that right now. With this precept, as well as the one to follow. Revelation 12, start at verse 1.
And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars.
This is the nation of Israel. Anytime you see the woman in the Revelations, it's talking about the nation of Israel. The 12 stars that's on her crown is the 12 tribes of Israel. Verse 2.
And she began with being with child, crying, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered.
Now, if you go back and you look in the Old Testament times, during the time, remember I told you during the times of the prophets, most of the time that as they were prophesying the coming of Christ, we were in captivity. Our people were going through a lot of different troubles, a lot of different hardships, a lot of different sufferings. These were labor pains because of the child that was going to be born, which is Christ. Verse 3.
And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his head. And his
okay, now I need to give him precept for that. Precept for that, for this verse, is Daniel the 7th chapter, verse 7. This third beast is Rome. Okay? It's Rome. Go ahead.
And his tail drew a third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth, and the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered, to devour her child as soon as it was born.
Notice the C there is capitalized because that is speaking of Christ. If you go to Matthew the 2nd chapter, you will see in there that that King Herod, which was not an Israelite, he was an Edomite. He was one of the people that was placed in charge by the Romans. Okay, and what were they trying to do? Trying to kill Christ. This proves that the Romans is a nation that was submitted to Satan, the dragon. Okay? This is what Edom does. You need to understand that. It's very vital that you receive that. And you can prove that by looking at Matthew the 2nd chapter. Edom was trying to kill Christ from the orders of Satan. Okay? Verse 4. Verse 5.
And she brought forth a man-child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. Okay, your precept there, Ephesians the 1st chapter, verse 20, which says that Christ now is sitting at the right hand in his throne next to the Most High. That's why we give you these precepts. The way the Bible has been preached, it's not right. They didn't do it on purpose. It wasn't malicious. But it was through the eyes of the Gentiles. You need to look at it through the eyes of who you are, an Israelite. Verse 6. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared of God, and they should feed her there 1,260 days.
Remember I told you back in Luke the 21st chapter, Christ told them, he said, when you see Jerusalem surpassed by armies, he told them to flee into the mountains. Our people began to flee into the Atlas Mountains of northern Africa. They began to flee in certain parts of Rome, but they went down into the southern parts of Saudi Arabia and Yemen. But most of our people, we're going to give you some secular information here, about 1 million of our people went into northern Africa and began to migrate all the way down to West Africa. I'm going to show you that in a minute. Now let's go down to verse 13.
And when the dragon saw that he was cast into the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child.
So now, when Christ went up and shed his blood on the holy tabernacle after he had been raised from the dead, Satan could no longer go to heaven. Accusing us of sin. So that's what Satan used to do. You ever heard in church where they call Satan the accuser of the brethren? What happened was, the whole time he was going to heaven, bringing our sins up to the Father. If you go to Job, the 1st chapter, you'll see that when Satan went to the Most High, that's what he would do. Going in there saying, well, you cast me out, but look at your people. Look what your people doing. But once Christ went and shed his blood on that holy tabernacle that was in heaven, he was done. He couldn't go up there no more. So now that he's cast down to the earth, this whole thing is trying to destroy us. This is what you see here in verse 13. Verse 14.
Unto the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place where she is nurtured for a time, and times, and half a time, from the face of the serpent. Okay, now take that link right here. Take the second link right there. Put that in here. This is your link for this right here. The one that said the hidden truth. Israelite dispersion. Now we're going to put a link in there for you. And you're going to be able to see that they went down into northern Africa and began to migrate all the way to West Africa. The Most High setting them down there. And from 70 AD all the way to about the 1600s, they were there and hiding from the dragon. Nobody knew they was there. Now, around the 8th, 9th century, which would have been the year 1000, even up into the 1100s, in the 10th century, this is when the Arabs found us. When the Arabs found us, they began to enslave us, and then they sent letters back to Europe telling them, yo, we done found them. So we was down there hiding the whole time, and they didn't know us. You go back and you look at history, during the time of the Bible, the only parts of Africa that was inhabited was northern and eastern Africa around the Horn. We went into the areas of west and down into southern. We're going to put a precept, we're going to put a link in there so you can see all of the Israelite kingdoms. So you can prove to you that our people were in Western Africa. Verse 15.
And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood.
Now, this flood was lies. Those lies were, number one, that, let me get this picture for you. The first lie was that Jesus was white. Okay? That was the first lie. Let me just show you a good old picture of old Cedra here. Okay? Yeah, show him that picture right there. That was the first lie. Okay? First lie was that was Jesus. Okay? That was the first lie that he told him. That right there. You see the guy on the left right there? That's on my right? That's Cedra Borgia, was the son of the Pope. They painted Leonardo da Vinci painted a picture of him and put it up and saying he was Jesus. That was the first lie they told. Let me show this to my YouTube people so they can see it. Okay? That was the first lie. Okay? The second lie they told, that they said that the Jewish people were our people. During the 13th, 14th century, the Khazars of Russia converted into what they call Judaism. We didn't, look, Judaism has nothing to do with us. Okay? You need to understand that. We ain't never served, no, we ain't no Jewish people, we ain't never served no Judaism as a religion. We never did that. That's those guys. Okay? That's those guys. That's not us. The Old Testament is not got nothing to do with Judaism. Okay? That was the second lie. Then they began to tell us and come up with these lies, saying the Darwin theory, saying that people came from monkeys, and then they went to black people, and they evolved into white people. That was the third lie. So they made us to be savages. And then when the other ones didn't want to go to that, they said that we were the cursed seed of Ham. Okay? So all lies to make it seem as if we wasn't the people. You understand? So that's how all these things came about. Verse 16.
And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened up her mouth and swallowed the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth.
Okay, how the earth helped them is that our old records began to be found. The book of Enoch was found. The book of Jasher was found. The Dead Sea Scrolls, where the true scriptures that were written by our people were found in Hebrew. That's how we were helped. That's how it helped so people can know who we are, so that they wouldn't be able to tell these lies so much longer. Now, of course, the people still believe these things, but the earth opening up and these true records of our people coming out is the reason why we are being awakened today. Verse 17.
And the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which kept the commandments of God and have the testimonies of Jesus Christ.
Why do you think in all these churches that you see in America, they always preaching and saying that the law is done away with? Why do you think you see that? Why do you think that's happening all the time? Why do you think that the slave master taught us to preach that the law was done away? Because they don't want you following the law, statutes, and commandments. You know why? Because the law and statutes and commandments were given to our people. And we will suffer when we don't follow the law. This is how we have remained on the bottom. Hosea 4:6 says, my people perish because of a lack of knowledge. Because we have rejected knowledge. We have went away from the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. That's why our communities look the way they look. That's why our churches look the way they look. That's why our people are in the status that we are. And they made a point to teach you every Sunday that you don't got to follow the law. But yet they follow the law when they take up the tithes. It's funny, right? We ain't under the law, but they passed that collection plate, them tithes up though, which is part of the law. It's amazing to me. So we only choose it, we only follow it when it's convenient, but the rest of the time, we ain't on it. Right? Today's lesson is entitled Rebirth of a Nation. Now, put the other 2 links in there, Jay. Like I said, we know we're going along with you today, and I know many of y'all done checked out. You ain't used to long-winded messages like this, but hey, we hope that you come back on and check it out. For those who stand with you, may the Most High continue to bless you. But we got to put this out here, whether people see it or not. Our job as the Most High messenger is to put this information out. What he's putting in there is going to show you, number one, a map of the slave trade. You know what I'm saying? So you can see where exactly the slave ships pulled up to, okay, which was West Africa. We put that link also there as a YouTube link where you'll be able to see all of the nations that was in Western and Southern and Northern Africa that were Israelite nations, okay? So, number one, you see, we gave you the Bible evidence that they went into to Africa. So if the Jewish people are the people, then why ain't a bunch of white Jewish Christians in Africa? Okay? It don't add up. All right? Number two, with us putting that link in there, you're going to be able to see all of these nations with Israelite roots. So why did they keep that from us as well? So they wanted to tell you about Egypt because they want you to focus on Egypt. But I keep trying to tell all these people that are following this Egyptology mess that ain't one slave ship put up to Egypt. Not one. Okay? So stop even trying that mess. Don't even mention it anymore. Because it has nothing to do with you. Okay? Today's lesson is entitled Rebirth of a Nation. Now let's go to Deuteronomy 28. Deuteronomy 28. We're going to try to speak through this as much as possible. Where we at right now in time now? All right. Let's go. Let's get it. I hope you're hanging in there with us. This is going to answer every question that you've always had. I promise you that. Every question that you always had about who we are, how we got here, what's going on, this lesson today is going to solve it because we need to move forward with building our nation. We don't need to be any more questions about who you are going forth after this. Deuteronomy 28. Now, the reason why we needed to show you this is because, remember, we told you back in Acts, the first chapter, verse 6 and 7, that the disciples asked Christ, is God going to restore the kingdom now? It's like, no, not now, because there's some things that we had to go through. Remember when we showed back in Deuteronomy 32, we showed you that the Most High promised that, listen, because of what you did, I'm bringing you down. I'm going to make you serve other people. I'm going to make all these things happen to you. And you need to see here in this Bible so we can show it to you and prove to you beyond a shadow of a doubt that these prophecies, these curses, we went through. Deuteronomy 28, start verse 15.
But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe, to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Okay,
so the Most High tells his people right here today. He said, listen, the first 14 verses of this chapter is talking about the blessings that he was going to do for his people. But he said, listen, if you don't follow my law, you don't follow my statutes, you don't follow my commandments, this is what I'm going to do to you. Now, definitely, we're not going to read all these verses, but we're going to pick some ones out that are key to us. Let's go to verse 32.
Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given to another people, and that eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thy hand.
Did that not what happened to our people? When the English and when the French and when the Belgium and the Portuguese pulled up to the coast of West Africa, is that not what happened to our people? Can you name anyone else that happened to? Did that not happen to our people that was over in the Americas? Because they went into slavery too. Did that not happen to the people that was in Jerusalem that didn't heed the words of Christ and he took them off into as slavery? Scattered them amongst all the nations? Verse 33.
The fruit of thy hand and all thy labor shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always.
Is that not what's happening right now in Africa? How down in South Africa we don't have any control of the gold mines. In West and Central Africa, all the diamond mines, the oil, the rubber trees, the land, we don't have. Is that not what happened? Is that not what happened to our so-called Indian brothers here in America? When the so-called good people, good Christians came over to America? Is that not what they did to them? Took their land, took their fishes, took their trees, took the buffalo, took everything. Is that not what's currently happening to our people right now in these areas with these so-called hurricanes? So-called hurricanes come in, destroy the land, you depopulate the people, move them out, then all of a sudden, new people move in. Is that not what's happening? Did that not what happened to our people up in New York City? You think that Central Park, you see that beautiful park that's up in New York, go do your research on how they got it. It was Israelites living there. If you don't believe it, just go check everything that I'm saying here. If you think I'm lying and making this stuff up, go look at what happened in Central Park. How the Israelites was living there. So-called black people were staying there. And they took all the land from them, just took it and built a park. Yeah. Let's go down to verse 45.
Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee.
So he warned them again. This is all this is warnings. Okay? None of this has happened yet. This is warnings. If you don't do this, this is what I'm going to do. Verse 46.
And this shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever.
For how long?
Forever.
Is that not what is that not us? When you talk about our people, when you talk about the way our people look, when you talk about the signs and how we look in history, is that not a sign to the world forever? When people talk about the so-called black man, the so-called Indians and all that, is that not a sign to the people? Forever. That I'm going to show the world that you are my people and you're here now because you didn't follow my law, statutes, and commandments. Is it not a sign? Forever. Verse 47.
Because thou serve not the Lord thy God with joyfulness and with the gladness of heart for the abundance of all things, therefore thou shalt serve thy enemies which the Lord shall send against thee in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck.
He shall do what?
He shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee.
This is yoke of iron. There it is. Yeah. Go and Google. Go to your Google site and put in yoke of iron. That's what you're going to see. I bet you won't see a white face in there. See that? And he said this back in Deuteronomy 28 chapter. Thousands of years before it happened. You see that? Way before it ever happened. Thousands of years before it happened, he said, you're going to do what?
Therefore thou shalt serve thy enemies which the Lord shall send against thee, in
Mhm.
hunger and in thirst, and in nakedness and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he has destroyed thee.
Until he had destroyed us. It did not happen to our people. You can't make this up. This is why they told you to stay out of the Old Testament, people. Because they didn't want you to see this. Because when you start reading this, you know it's your people. Verse 49.
The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from afar, from the ends of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue shall not understand.
Did we speak English when they came to West Africa? Did we speak French? Did our people in America, did they speak English? And if you go read, I'm telling you, if you think I'm making this up, go research Christopher Columbus. Christopher Columbus was not Spanish, he was Jewish. He went to the people of Spain for the money to come. He used the Apocrypha, the thing that the Catholic Church said is not a good book, which is our book, and we're going to start teaching from that in a minute. I had to give you time to get ready for it, okay? But if you go in and read the journals of Christopher Columbus, he took Jewish people with him that speak fully Hebrew. When he came to Montezuma, one of the leaders of the so-called Indians in America, they were speaking Spanish first. He couldn't understand him. He speak English first. He couldn't understand him. But when he speak English, he said, Shema Yasha Allah Ahaya Akar. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. He said that in Hebrew to him. He knew Ahaya. Go back and look at some of these old cowboy movies, some of the old ones, when they show them dancing around there. They be going, Ahaya, 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 Ahaya. Yeah. 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 They didn't speak English. They didn't speak Spanish. They didn't know who they were. When the Romans came to all these other lands, they all spoke the same language. But when they came to ours, we didn't know none of their language. Verse 50.
A nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of old, nor show favor to the young.
Mm-hmm.
And he shall eat of the fruit of thy cattle and the fruit of thy land until thou be destroyed, which also shall not leave thee either corn, wine, or oil, or the increase of thy kind, or flocks or sheep until he have destroyed thee.
Remember the Trail of Tears? For the so-called Cherokee people? You remember what they did to the people, the Cortez them did to the people out in the Midwest and the West? While all the people were struggling with famine, no food to eat? Is that not what they're doing to our people right now in West and South Africa? While all these people out here with famines, they living on land full of gold and riches and everything, but all of a sudden they don't got no money, they can't do nothing. Famine. You go down there in Central America, down in Venezuela right now, the people are starving, and you got all that oil down there. Starving. Our people. They take everything. Look on the islands of Jamaica and Bahamas and Dominican Republic and the Fiji Islands and Trinidad. All these islands down there, even in Hawaii, where you got all these large resorts, where Esau's down there getting money. But some of you done been on these cruises, but when you go into the regular population of Puerto Rico and Cuba and Jamaica and the Bahamas and Trinidad and parts of Mexico, Hawaii, these people are poor and impoverished people. Don't got nothing. How in the world that happened? And all of you that have been on these trips, you know it ain't cheap. How are these people struggling like this on the land with Esau down there getting all the money? Read that for him again.
And a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of old, nor show favor to the young. And he shall eat the fruit of thy land, and the fruit of thy cattle, and the fruit of thy land, until thou be destroyed. Which also shall not leave either corn, wine, or oil, or the increase of thy kind, or flocks of the sheep, until he have destroyed thee.
Look in your neighborhoods right now. Look in your areas. Look in even in America. This is going on right now, even in America. where these corporations come in, take the land from the people, and then leave you in projects. Look at what happened to our people down in New Orleans. Look at what they're doing to our people right now in Houston. And if our people don't wake up, it's coming to a neighborhood near you. A rebirth of a nation. Now let's go down to verse 64.
And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from one end of the earth even unto the other. And thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor your fathers have known, even wood and stone.
Wood being the cross of Christianity. The stone being the Kabbalah stone of Islam. Is that not the majority of our people in? He said serving gods that you didn't know. Yahweh. Jehovah. We ain't never served that. Jesus. Allah. Our people didn't know anything about that. You understand? And the Most High said this here in Deuteronomy 28, about 3,500 years before it happened. You're going to go serve wood and stone. In every black community right now, you see churches with crosses all out of it. Wood. Everybody and their mama walking around with a cross on their neck. Wood. And the rest of our people, they got the Kabbalah stones, got the little emblems of Islam and the Kabbalah stone, the crescent moon. And none of these religions even existed at this time, but he said it did. You tell him this ain't us? If this ain't us, who is it? The show ain't the Jewish people. I tell you that. Because ain't no white man ever served nobody. Ain't never white man did it. Let me not get ahead of myself. Verse 65.
And among these nations shall thou find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest. The Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart and failing of eyes and sorrow of mind.
Is that not describing what that so-called black man is going through right now in this country? No rest. No peace. You walk outside the door, you don't know what's going to happen. You get in your car just to go to the grocery store, you get pulled over, you may not make it home. Ask the family of Sandra Bland. Had an Edomite up in New York, put a bomb downtown, blew up some people. We got in a shootout with the police, went in safe. No problem. Shot at the police, shot 2 cops, blew up people, killed people, made it in safe. Guy down in Tulsa, Oklahoma, a few weeks ago, car broke down on the side of the road. He was out there waving down the police. Dead. And they said he wasn't being compliant. Is bombing people and shooting at them, is that compliance? How does he make it alive and a man just broke down on the side of the street dead? And they say he wasn't being compliant. How does a man sitting in his car in Charlotte, North Carolina, sitting in his car, waiting on his what's up, Brandon? Glad to see you on, my brother. A man that's sitting in his car waiting on his child to get home from school, reading a book. Shot. Read it for him again. Verse 65.
And among these nations shall thou find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest. But the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart and failing of eyes and sorrow of mind.
Is that not what happened to? Is that not what's happening every day for our people all across the world? No rest, no ease. Our parents got to sit our children down, scared every day. Got to talk to them. If you get pulled over by the police, just act this way. Just do this. And we still don't believe this is us. Verse 66.
And the light shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shall have none assurance.
No assurance for life. Look at what they're doing to our brothers over in Africa. Going out building dams and blocking the water so the water won't come downstream. Look at what they're doing to our peoples in the communities. You understand? This is our people. The so-called black man, the so-called African American man. This is us. Being here in Deuteronomy 28. Verse 67.
In the morning thou shalt say, Would God if it were eve. And at eve thou shalt say, Would God if it were morning. For the fear of thy heart wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thy eyes thou shalt see.
We can't find peace nowhere. We just wish it was all over. You wonder why you're seeing people drunk all the time and high all the time and just spazzed out of their mind and partying all the time, because they're trying to escape reality. A reality for the so-called black man, the so-called African American man, the so-called Mexican and Puerto Rican that's in this country. Look at what they did to the Indians. It was some white folks protesting up in South Dakota, Montana. Was out there with guns every day, held people in siege. Nothing happened. They went up there to the folks up there, them so-called Indians up there, had them slammed on the ground, feet facing the dirt, guns to the back of their head, and all thing they were saying is, stop taking our land. Stop poisoning our water. Deuteronomy 28. Verse 68.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
He gonna do what?
He shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
Egypt means house of bondage. I want you to tell me one white person that went inside a cargo ship and were brought to another land to serve another people. And they got to be Jewish. Because you say they're God's people, right? And they're going to do what?
By the way, whereof I spake unto thee, that thou shalt see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondsmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you.
Who else did that happen to? Who else? If anybody got any historical evidence of anybody allowing some boats to come to the coast of their land, put them in it, and take them to another land that they never seen before and serve their enemies, you please send it to me. I'll gladly receive it. But you can't. Because it's only happened to us. And we put that information in there for you to see it. Today's lesson is entitled The Rebirth of a Nation.